the fall of Seoul has begun, at least a little bit here, as they're now down 0-1. Probably not expecting Youngju to take Bomber out, but he showed a good game at least.
The next game that we have coming up is the Zerg versus Protoss, and to be quite frank with you guys, if I had a hat, I would offer to eat them if Life loses the game. It's a best of one.
Wait, if you had a what?
If I had a hat.
A head?
Hat.
A hat? If you had a hat, you'd eat a hat.
If I had a hat, I would offer to eat it if Life loses.
Okay. I'd be like, I don't know if I've ever heard that expression before, but like the more I think of it, I'm like, have I? I'm like, it does sound like it could make sense. Like, I'll eat a hat.
I would also eat a broom if I had one. Like, it doesn't really matter, like, whatever it is, because I think it's very unlikely that Life is going to lose that. Life has a 75% win ratio in this matchup. He hasn't lost a single match against an opponent in 10 matches.
Yeah.
Like, best of ones and best of threes put together, he has a winning streak of 10-0.
Please don't eat any hats, though, or brooms, because I don't think that's very healthy.
No, it usually isn't. Like, you know, if you eat a little bit of wood, that's fine, but if you eat an entire broom, that can be... Yeah, that kind of... That's not... You don't really...
the concept of your body digesting that is splintering my thought right now. What is that leaf on his shirt, by the way?
What is what?
Did you see that leaf on the coach's shirt for Seoul? He's like... It's like he really likes autumn or something. He's like, no, yeah, it's autumn now, so I wore a leaf. Actually, it's today. Today is the 22nd. I think today is the first day of autumn. So he's like repping the autumn pin.
That is definitely not what he intended to say there.
I don't know, man. I think today is the first day of autumn. Am I right? It's also like the equinox or whatever. You know. I'm not a scientist, but like, you know, it's like. He's wearing the pin.
I have no idea if today is the first day of autumn.
I think it is. I think it is in Korea. It's the 22nd.
It could be.
Yeah. That's like, if true, I respect to this man for wearing the pin. If not, it looks really silly, and I have no idea why he's wearing it.
Maybe just because he thinks it looks good.
Well, he and I do not share the same opinion on this. Going to the map number 2 here. Life versus Wangshin, Zerg versus Protoss here at the GSTL with Calder and Wolf.
That fuel source fresh from the core. Right mind, flicking strong. You like iodine. With blueprints, these huge quotes that my mind designed.
We have a very interesting game 2 at our hands now here at the GSTL match between StarTale and Seoul. The Zerg player to the bottom of the map is one of the best Zerg versus Protoss players that we have in the world. It is for StarTale.
StarTale Life.
Quoting statistics and win ratios for a player of his caliber is actually a little bit silly. He has, in total, 60 maps played, and he won 75% of them against the best players in the world in CVP.
Yeah, so this guy up here, the top left, is going to have a bit of a challenge. He is...
Wangshin.
He's going to have especially a very huge challenge, because if you just look at his statistics at first, you're like, oh my god, it's actually not that bad. The guy has 12 maps played and he won 9 of them. And then you look at the opponents that he faced and you realize that against Korean Zerg players, he didn't win a single match. He won 1 map in a best of 3 against Yu-Gi-Oh!, but he lost the best of 3. All the other victories that he has against Zerg are solely against foreign players.
Yeah.
And that is...
And a lot of them unknowns.
Yeah, that's not really the statistics that you want to have. So at this point, we have Life just... He's someone, you know, he's someone where people just rejoice to see his Protoss versus Zerg. Like, Protoss versus Zerg, a couple of people are like, well, I don't really like the matchup. It's a little bit too stale, especially at the beginning.
Yeah.
But when you see Life play the matchup, it's just crazy. This kid is so good. He has these crazy attack timings. And yes, it's a best of 1. So anything can happen here. But if you have a win streak of 10 games in a row, you usually feel pretty confident going up against a Protoss player that is not really all that accomplished in the matchup.
Yeah. Looks like Wangshin wanted to fake out the cannoning there, but it's just not. Life already knows with his Overlord that it's pretty unlikely he's going to be cannon. He also has an Overlord to spot, so he's just going to... He didn't even pull a drone, he just let it go. And now he's just doing a little bit of harassment. I like to see little things like that, you know, especially when you're up against somebody like Life, to still just try to poke at him, try to see if like his godlike mechanics can be faltered for a second. He only took 1 gas here, so he's going to have a very fast Nexus, but a very late Mothership core as a result, so that's the trade-off.
The thing is, like, I feel in the Protoss versus Zerg, you have very limited options of what you can throw against your opponent if you want to be overly aggressive. Like, most of the timings, the Zerg player knows that they exist and he will have the scouting in position. So, I feel if Wanshi was a Terran player, he would probably have just double 11 his opponent. Like, I don't know what he can really do here. It's not like that he's like a horrible player or anything like that, but the first 2 games when we looked at today's roster were the matches where everyone said, alright, StarTale is going to take the 2-0 lead, and then we're going to see if Seoul is able to win the next couple of games to equalize the score. But having Bomber and Life being player number 1 and number 2 already put StarTale up in a really good position, especially in the matchups they were playing. But right now, with Life going up against the Protoss player, this is probably exactly what he wanted. I mean, the kid is pretty good against Protoss.
I think he's basically just looking at this saying, like, alright, I'm just going to do my thing.
I actually think he's currently the strongest Zerg vs. Protoss player that we have in Heart of the Swarm.
Yeah, I can't think of somebody better off the top of my head. I don't... Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think you're right.
He's back in the Premier League now, so, like...
It's like, you could argue that Su is up there, but he hasn't played as many Prosses, and he hasn't shown, like, as much consistency. He did just lose to a Pross in the GSL finals, but like...
Actually, a pretty good point. Like, maybe we shouldn't say the best, but we should say, like, the most consistent on a high level.
Yeah, I mean, Life is... We talked about this actually a lot, but Life is one of the most consistent players that we've ever had because he's been consistent for over such a long period of time.
Yeah, and the funny thing is when people were talking about him, like, being in a little bit of a slump, it just meant, like, yeah, he doesn't win every game anymore. He only wins, like, most of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he had a little bit of tough luck actually with a couple of matches that he lost because they were crucial ones that really were quite important for him. For example, in the last round of the Challenger League, like last season, not in the third but in the second, he lost to Haiba, and that was not really what he wanted, so he had to go through, like, he had a bit of troubles there. He had to go through the up and downs and stuff like this, so that was, not really what he wanted, but he's back in the Premier League now, and that's exactly where he belongs. He just won IEM New York, and that's, of course, also quite the accomplishment. Yeah. Beat a lot of Protoss players there.
Well, he's going to have to defeat this Immortal All-In if he wants to take this point for his team. He does not actually... I don't think that he scouted the second gas at the natural, but he knows that there's definitely not 3 gases being mined from right now, and that's going to let him know that definitely some heavy pressure is probably coming his way. He's going to want to play a little bit safer here. No probe production right now, and he is... okay, well, he starts it again for just a moment here, but he's going heavy on the Immortals. 2 of them first, really, really quick, and he's going to add the gateways pretty soon. And he's going to put some Zealot pressure on first, and he's going to follow this up. So Life is going to have to be on the defensive right here from the start. He does see this coming. He doesn't have a whole lot of units, though. He's only 2 Zerglings in production. He just actually used his Larva on drones.
Yeah, he loses a Larva, and he's getting his first few roads now into the game. So Wanshi decides that it's really time to put a lot of pressure on the Life, since he knows that in the late game he will most likely not be able to just take down his opponent. But this could really well work for him. I mean, the drones so far, not a lot of them going down. Nice micro that we have here. And he's still trying to attack those Zealots just to keep them occupied and make sure that the Hatch is surviving. The Lings are now rushing in. And we have the first few roaches. The Time Warp goes down, making sure that the Zealots can close the distance. But the drones are already mining again, and Life knows that he will have saved them.
Yeah, he has. And, you know, the roaches actually clean up the last of the Zealots. Mothership Corps being chased away will escape, but does he realize that there's a bunch of Immortals coming for a second attack? That's the big question here. He starts Burrow.
Burrow is, of course, going to help him a little bit, but we also have an Observer being built for Huang Xing.
He sees the Immortals.
Yeah, the Observer, the Scout, the Overlord. He sees the Immortals, as you already pointed out. So Life should really just make sure that he now gets units, and he's getting more and more Zerglings. He has the Roaches, just have that base, that backbone of his army.
You know what's interesting is he got the Observer before the Warp Prism, which I think is actually going to really hurt this push, because it means that he's going to have a warping point a lot later. Yeah, he can make a pylon with his probe, but still he has to wait for that. And Life already knows this is coming. Roach speed is dangerously late, but I think he has just enough raw power in the units that he's making that I think he should, if he gets in the right position, he should have a good hold on this.
Yeah, only 5 sentries.
Yeah.
That's like not a lot, especially if you bait out a few force fields.
He's going to be making mostly Stalkers, I think, here.
And the sentries, the first one is already gone. That's 4 sentries, and I don't think that's going to be enough.
And the force fields aren't even. The force field's not very good here, and actually, the Immortals are already under attack. There's nowhere to run. The Warp Prism doesn't even pick up the Immortals. He's on move command here, and I think this is game over.
Oh my God, this was
so sloppy
already. The force fields, more fail fields than anything else. and the time warp goes down. Huangxing is trying to do what he can, but so many roaches, most of those sentries are gone. 3 are left in the game. 2 immortals taken out, only 1 surviving, and here come those Zerglings closing distance, chasing down 1 sentry after another. This attack is over, and Life says, well, thank you very much, and proceeds to the top right.
You know, you may actually have to turn around because of a counterattack, or you could just go for the trade and say, I don't care about my third base because you're just going to die here. Roach Speed's about to finish. He has a few options here, but Huangxin's options are very limited, on the other hand.
Huangxin soon has to recall back. And
yeah, he could, like, try to snipe the hatch and then recall.
I don't think he has the energy, that's the point.
Yeah, he's just used 2 time warps, so I don't think he has the energy either. There's actually basically enough roaches to hold at home too.
Yeah, at home, the roach is already dancing, he's going for the burrow, and Life is having fun here, he's enjoying the game, and is taking the second victory for StarTale. 91 army supply against 31, Roaches the main base and natural of his opponent, and defending his own third base as well. Life once
making it look easy, man. Yeah, you and I said the same thing there, it's just, he really is. The last of the Sentries falls, Warpin's here at home, and that's it, GG. GG. That was one of the sloppiest timings, you know, that's really ever been seen. He just wanted to do it with, like, the Zealot pressure first, so we only had 2 gases, and if you only have 2 gases, what does that obviously mean? It means less sentries, and with less sentries against that many roaches, when Life knows it's coming, it's just not going to work. And then his force fields were poor.
If you have 5 sentries, you need better force fields.
Yeah, his force fields were really poor. He engaged at an area where Life could actually get the surround. And I think that was just kind of an off game for Huangxin. I mean, we talked about him before. He's not the best player in Protoss versus Zerg, and
it's just like if you go up against Life in this matchup, there is only so much you can work with.
Yeah,
Life is incredible in the matchup. He's strong enough as it is in all the other matchups, but in Protoss versus Zerg, this is where he just crushes opponents.
So now we talked about how the 3rd and 4th match are going to be the most pivotal ones in this series. We expected the first 2 matches to go exactly like this, and so the mirror matchups, the Protoss versus Protoss and the Zerg versus Zerg, that's really where Seoul needs their wins right now to bring it to where they can finally get Deer out as the final player.
The 4th match is our PvP. We are heading into the Zerg versus Zerg now, and I feel that the ZVZ is actually the most important one. Pat looks a little bit on the up right now. He showed us a couple of good games in the GSTL. He showed good games also in the Challenger League. I casted a few of the matches where he was at the qualifier, which really impressed me. He's going up against Hiva, and Hiva being an aggressive player, being good in Zerg versus Zerg, but it's a best of 1, and depending on the build order, a lot can happen here.
Oh.
I feel the Zerg versus Zerg, this is going to be, from the 2 of them, the most crucial game, because if Seoul loses one of the next 2 matches, I do not think they have any chance of actually winning it today. They need to win the 2 mirror matches. I feel Trap has pretty good chances against
Pennant.
they
have like the biggest uphill battle to fight right now. I mean, you know, they have to go and try to unlock Deer, right? And they can finally get that final match out. But then Deer even has to play a Protoss versus Protoss, which can be, you know, a little bit weird.
But I feel the coach is probably looking at this and is like, okay, this is kind of what we expected.
Yeah.
I would have loved one of you guys to take them out, but I don't hold it against you that you lost against players like Bomber. And
I mean, it's cool to see the builds that we saw. Aggressive build in Game 1 against Bomber, then the Immortal all-in with the Zealot pressure, kind of a unique style of doing the attack. It was clearly well planned, because they were like, well, I'm never going to beat these guys in a straight-up game. I actually have to do a timing here. And Life scouted, Bomber just is Bomber. Bomber didn't have any problems there in Game 1.
Those were the best players that StarTale has. So those were losses where the coach was like, okay, we can live with that. But now we have to take our wins. If we don't start to get the first couple of points onto the scoreboard right now, then we're going to lose this match today. And we are once again in a position where we didn't win a single life today. A couple of signs that we have here from the fans. And of course, here on the camera, we have Pet, a Zerg player, young one for Team StarTale.
Does he look like Duck Duck to you a little bit? You kind of get that from the side angle here. He resembles Duck Duck to me a little bit.
Not really. Like, Pet always looks very distinct to me. I don't know.
As you can see, this guy is not the most impressive player when it comes to individual league. In Korea, he's ranked 175th in WCS, or actually just in WCS in general. He's a decent player. Like, he's actually better than people give him credit for, but he hasn't produced enough results to really prove himself. You know, for us, we watch this guy, we see him at the qualifiers, and we see him play private games with people, and it's like, you can tell he's really good, he's got a lot of potential. But it hasn't been fully realized yet, I feel. Hiva, on the other hand, is someone who's much more popular, much more known, really good Premier League games. He will beat you with a build that doesn't make sense, he just makes things work.
Hiva is the one that a lot of people favor in this matchup right now. And I personally also think that he's the one that is more likely to win it. But I feel that
Excuse me.
Head is one of the worst.
I had like a sudden cough there. I couldn't even take my mic away.
Head is one of the players that is a little bit on the up now. He's dangerous. If you underestimate him, you might lose the game. And he just won against Patience. He took down opponents against Supernova he took a map. He won against Squirtle with a 2-1. Most of the matches actually that he won were against Protoss. So in the Zerg versus Zerg, he doesn't look as convincing. I feel this is actually the matchup where he struggles a little bit. So I think that this was not the matchup he was hoping for. His Zerg versus Protoss is much better than his ZVZ, I feel. And Haiva, on the other hand, he's a pretty good mirror match player. So I think in this situation, Haiva definitely the favorite. But he needs to be careful. In the best of one in a mirror match, it's just tricky.
It's ZVZ. It's a best of one. It doesn't get much more tricky than that, I guess you could say. You have to really take all the right risks, but not too many risks, you know. Especially on a two-player map like Tristram as well, where there's no guessing about starting locations, so you can't be too greedy early on. But if you play a slightly safe build and your opponent is greedy, then you get behind. So ZVZ is a really weird matchup in that way. So I think Pet could definitely take this one, but a lot of people favoring Haiva, myself as well.
Yep, so we will have the game in just a bit here. We're going to start with match number 3 right now. 2-0 is lead for StarTale, and Pet might be the one to bring it to a 3-0. But Haiva, of course, has other plans. He wants to be the first one for his team to bring a point on the scoreboard. So let's jump into the game right away here. The GSTL. Colin Ball.